So we have a Mars retrograde coming up. It starts December 6th. Mars is going to be retrograde in Leo. It's going back into Cancer. So let's talk a little bit about what we can expect and kind of how to prepare for this upcoming transit. We're going to do that partially by revisiting the most previous Mars retrograde. Now, the most previous Mars retrograde, it started on October 30th of 2022 and went into January 12th of 2023. Think back to anything that you didn't have your priorities together with at that time. Anything that started in your life, because Mars is an activator, so anything that could have started in your life that just kind of dwindled out, or maybe anything that started in your life that you've been carrying since then. Those things are coming under review in this Mars retrograde coming up. To have more of a personal look on this, check out where your Mars is in your birth chart. What house is it in? What sign is it ruled by? And because Mars is the ruler of Aries and Scorpio, Aries placements, Scorpio placements, first house and eighth house, those are also going to be more in the undercurrents, but still applicable. Mars is very relationship oriented. Normally we think about it in battle and war and victory, but Mars really does have to do with our relationships. Even if you're looking at it in a battle sense, who's your ally and why and where and when? That's true. So there could be different priorities within exchanges. That's also going to be more Scorpio related, but priorities within exchanges, priorities within different relationships. Mars retrogrades can also be a time where we go through an experience that helps us learn about our priorities. It might not make sense in the middle of it, in the middle of what is going on during this upcoming Mars retrograde that starts December 6th. There may be no understanding. You may just have to walk through something and kind of figure it out on the way. Mars retrograde is blinding on purpose. Sometimes we have to move forward and take action without having all the information. And so it helps to forge us. It helps us become a different person. It's very, very will oriented, especially in those blind places. So what are you deciding? Why are you deciding that? And then when Mars goes direct, we have more of the opportunity to go through and review those things. You may start some things in this Mars retrograde that you realize don't need to go with you once Mars does go direct. And Mars is going to go direct on February 24th. For everybody who's curious, it's about 2 months. Or 3, it's like 3 months. It's about 3 months. We do have lots of Mars and Saturn crossovers that are happening in the coming years. So this Mars retrograde is to give us the experience that we need. It's like it's planting a seed, okay? This Mars retrograde, it's giving us this seed so that we're able to grow it and nurture it and harvest it later on. And the experience that you are experiencing that has to do with your Mars placements specifically, that energy is going to help to be a driving force forward for the coming years while Mars and Saturn are kind of going back and forth and dancing with each other, because Saturn is going to be moving into Aries, as is Neptune. Mars goes direct February 24th within Pisces season. So we have, and which is where Saturn is right now, and also Neptune currently. So we have some crossover of Mars and Saturn in the coming years. So this is really like a preparation space for that. One of the things I recommend, especially with Mars, is to just make a note of anything that it feels important, get started. It may not be completely up and running yet, but just make a note of things, make a mental note, write it down, record it somehow, because especially with Aries, it's very mind. Aries rules the head, so it's very mind oriented. Sometimes we need to keep it up here, and sometimes we need to get it on paper or make a voice note or share it with somebody else. So however that works for you, discernment. True. Also, Mars retrogrades can ask us to let go of things that we've already started because they no longer help our priorities moving forward, especially since we're so close to starting this retrograde. If there's anything that you are starting within this time period, it may not become a long-term commitment. So just have the awareness of that. Again, we're really blinded. Mars retrogrades are blinding. So you might think and feel, because Mars is going to retrograde back into Cancer, so it has a lot to do with our feelings. You might think and feel that there is something that is like a long-term goal or a long-term relationship or a long-term harvest or something that's very future-oriented. And then Mars is going to go direct in February, and you might realize like, oh, that was so like delusional and I didn't even realize it. I was so out there, didn't even realize. However, how this works, okay, is that you might have not seen the full clarity and picture of that thing, that experience of a Mars retrograde might not be the long-term expectation. But again, it's like a seed. It teaches you about what you need so that you can still move in the long-term direction and receive what you're asking for. Fight for what you're asking for too. Sometimes that's applicable with Mars. and what's worth fighting for. We do have a Venus retrograde coming up right after the Mars retrograde, so there's a lot of self-worth stuff that we're also about to be walking through. We'll talk about that more in another video. Mars retrograde is enough by itself, okay? But just a heads up on that one. Oh, the beginning of 2025. When it does arrive, it will be very interesting, that's for sure. A year that is asking us to be more mature. Starting right about now. Starting right about now. So, gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep up your brew. Keep doing what you need to do. May the Mars retrograde bring you what you need. May I offer you the seed. Mars, yes, is associated with wartime, but it's also associated with harvest time. When the war campaigns were over, they would come home because they needed to harvest the field. They go together with the way that Mars is structured. Shout out to Mars. Love you, Mars. A new seed of what you need may arrive in this Mars retrograde. And when it does, nourish it, care for it, cherish it, and let it drive you forward into the future. This is a big time of harvest. Also, since Mars rules over Scorpio, Pluto also rules over Scorpio. They go together, and Pluto just moved into Aquarius. So we're like, this is a big harvest. It's a really long-term harvest. Pluto was in Capricorn for 16 years. So there may be some stuff that's unexpected that comes up, honestly, with that. On note, because Mars is also moving back into Cancer, which is where it was for the previous eclipse season. Interesting. Okay, so some long-term stuff could be coming up. We still have the North Node in Aries right now as well. So purpose-oriented harvest work could be some pretty big stuff. Sometimes we can't be so tough. You come home from the war campaigns and now you gotta go harvest the fields. Let the earth heal you. My goodness. You've been through battle. You've been through some hard stuff. Come on home, okay? Not a time to go out and roam. Come on home. Let's retreat for a moment. Have a sweet treat for a moment. Cook a nice meal and have something to eat for a moment, you know? Anyways, let me... You think talking about war and harvest, I might be not as goofy, but you gotta be goofy sometimes to get through the hard stuff, so. Congrats also, because that's true. Mars retrograde coming home from the war campaigns, probably a lot of you had some victories out there. Celebrate in your healing time as well. That's true. I'm pretty excited for this Mars retrograde, actually, now with that perspective. Rest, digest, don't be stressed, reprioritize, harvest work. Still work, okay? Yeah, it's always work. The work is always work. It always works, though. That's the good part. At least in my opinion. True. So congratulations if you have victories coming through from the war campaigns, however metaphorically that fits into your life, that you've been on. Yeah. And I'll talk to you soon. Also true.